BC.
Welcome back, 6:35 here on 93 WIBC. It is Abdul. It's No Politics Friday, so we're not talking politics today. But one thing we are going to be talking about is financial education, because we all know somebody who is horrible with money. And so there's a charity in town. They're called the Community Outreach for Financial Education, otherwise known as Coffe. I take mine with a lot of cream and a lot of Splenda, by the way, just so you all know. And they're with us to talk about what they do and maybe how they can help some folks who are having a little bit of trouble trying to get their finances in order. And join us in studio are Josh, Bach, and Charles Guynn, both with Coffe. Gentlemen, thank you both very much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Hey, so glad to be here.
Thank you. So, Josh, let me start with you. Where did the idea for Coffe come from?
You know, just experiencing the need for financial education when the recession took place, just looking around and just seeing how many people were just massively devastated because they weren't properly prepared for those types of big hits. And it happened at such a large percentage of people. But the fact of the matter is, the need is there for everyone on a constant basis to make certain that you keep up to date and really understand finances.
Now, you would think, Charles, that this is a lot of stuff that we learned when we were kids. You know, maybe something that our parents taught us, which was how to be financially literate. You know, here's how to save money. Don't spend more than you take in. It almost seems sort of commonsensical.
As a matter of fact, that's probably...
Obviously, just a little bit more.
Okay. As a matter of fact, it probably is not true. It's not really an item that's discussed in detail, even at our dinner tables. Many reasons for that, as we are investigating and interviewing folks that we're dealing with. They know nothing about the basics of finance. It's the basics that gets you to where the checkbook is, and the do's and don'ts, the differences between the wants and the needs. So what's unique about what we do is we start at the very basic. We start where you are. In your thought process about finance, and then from that point we start to graduate upward toward ultimately probably retirement funding and that kind of thing. But we're not in the business of promoting any product. We simply want to impart the information to the public as to what finance is and what it means to you, and really the effect that it has on the total community, not just the family.
It was interesting, Josh, because we were sort of joking before we went on the air, saying that, but I need you guys to talk to one of my nephews. It's like, we talk to everybody, young and old alike, and you would think that older folks would know more just from life experience and would maybe be a little bit more financially literate than maybe some of the younger crowd.
Yeah, not the case.
Apparently not the case.
Well, you got 75%, roughly 75% of all Americans are truly living paycheck to paycheck. That's a scary percentage. And so when it comes down to money, has a lot of emotion wrapped up into it, and it's not something that most people talk about, or they don't want to talk about. It causes a lot of arguments with business partners, and most certainly at home with spouses and sometimes with kids. And a lot of people just avoid talking about it. It's one of the most important survival skills that there is today, yet in our society it's placed very low on the priority, and that's what our mission is to be able to help raise that awareness and get that priority up.
Now, Charles, you would think that as important money is and finances are, that people would want to talk about it more, as important as it is.
You're right. It seems that would be the correct answer. But as Joshua had mentioned, it's in many cases it's an embarrassment when they're talking about, especially when you have kids asking mother and dad, why can't we do X, Y, Z?
My father had a simple answer for that. Because we're broke. That's why. Right. We can do because we ain't got no money. That's why we're not doing it. Go get the hell out of my house and go get a job. And we were done.
Well, that's a humorous way of looking at it, but
it's true.
Right. But it's devastating in many cases with the parents or that adult that's in the room that's trying to explain why they can't do certain things. I mean, if you look basically at divorce, A lot of we were looking at some of the stats. All the divorces, you're talking in the low 90 percentile, that it originated from a discussion or some problem with finance. So it's very serious. It's a very serious item that we're dealing with, and that people don't want to talk about it because there are a lot of negatives that they associate with it.
Well, and to go back with what you said, Abdul, chances are your household, when you were younger, they didn't have credit cards, weren't available. They are now, so it's a lot easier to be able to say, you know what, we can do that now. We can keep doing that now. And all of a sudden, lo and behold, you look, and the average household has tens of thousands of dollars worth of credit card debt, and it's just this vicious cycle.
It's funny you bring that up, because from my own sort of personal financial habits, I notice that if I have my debit card, I'll spend money with not necessarily thinking twice about what I'm buying. But if I have cash, I hold on to it a lot longer.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why. It's something engraved in my head.
It's a system. Yeah. It's a system, and that system works for you. Every one of us we have a system, but the fact of the matter, when you really look at the statistics and what percent is allocated towards interest and debt and all those different things, in the long haul, it doesn't work for most households.
We're taking a moment to talk to Josh Bach and Charles Guynn. Guynn, there we go. Thinking Fred Guynn from the Munsters. That's easy way to remember your last name. They're with an organization called Coffe Community Outreach for Financial Education. We've got to take a break real quick here, but one thing I wanted to ask you before we did is, you would think that for some strange reason, Did this all happen when they stopped teaching like home economics in school, or something about how to write a check and how to balance a checkbook? How did we get here?
I mean, from everything we've gathered, it has really been placed upon the parents historically to do those types of things. It never has had a large emphasis in the school system, really, ever. And I know they've tried some great programs over the last decade or so, and they're making a dent. Don't get me wrong, they're doing wonders, but not even close to the level that you need to. I mean, I'm a firm believer that financial education needs to be incorporated into a lot of classes within the school, because it is such a strong survival skill. It's one of the most important ones that there is, and we just don't teach it. We don't teach it.
Josh Bach, Charles Guynn, our guests today on the program here on 93 WIBC. They're with Coffe, the Community Outreach for Financial Education. We'll continue our conversation with Josh and Charles in just a bit. You're listening to Abdul Large tonight here on 93 WIBC.
Abdul at Large. In a thunder roll. In a thunder roll.
Welcome back, Abdul Large tonight here on 93 WIBC. We're talking to the folks from Community Outreach for Financial Education, otherwise known as Coffe. Like I said, I take mine, a lot of cream, a lot of Splenda, the big old giant cup and everything in the morning. But they do, like I said, a lot of financial literacy, young and old, talking to a lot of groups and community people to try to get people on track with their financial education. Not necessarily selling any product or anything, just saying, hey, folks, here's how to stay on the straight and narrow. And our guests are Josh Bach and Charles Guynn. Gentlemen, once again, thank you very much for sticking around with us on this Friday afternoon. We do appreciate it.
No, we're so happy to be here.
Yeah. One of the things that, like I said, when it comes to the whole issue of financial education, that, like I said, that what do you say to that person who says, I'm listening to these guys, and all this is good and fine, but you know what? I got my stuff together. I'm good. Now let me go borrow, because you know what? As long as I'm not broke, I'm in good shape. Sometimes we lull ourselves into a false sense of security.
Massively, and that's one of the biggest problems, I believe, because a lot of times when people think about financial literacy, financial education, what we do, they're like, there's a vast majority of the population that say, okay, that's just for the people of the lowest socioeconomic background and knowledge. Not the case. I've helped found this organization, and I learn something every day. And it's really a gradient level of understanding. You can always learn more. So the people that are saying that, I've got my stuff in order, I got this and I've got that. Just look at it again. Take a deeper look, because there's things you can do so much better.
There's an assumption made that if a person has a certain profession, they're making a certain amount of money, that they've made it. And what we're finding out is, even with some of our clients that may be doctors, maybe attorneys, they may be experts in their own field, but they're not experts in handling finance.
Lawyers horrible at handling money? I've never seen that.
Well, they take it.
You can't see the eye roll on the radio, but
it's there, right?
Yeah. No, but it's interesting because some people say, like, no, we got lots of money, we have our savings, we're good. How does somebody tell whether they are financially sound, or is it all relative?
Well, it's relative, and I tell you, it's important. My wife is a psychologist, and one of the things that we talk about around the table relates to what I'm doing here at Coffe, and that is, in order to get this information into the mind, you have to empty all the negatives that were there, what people had negative attitudes about what finance is to them, and empty that, and then impart the new information. And the very basic thing is, how much do you understand commitment? The word commitment and what it is, and then from the commitment and understanding what commitment is to you personally, then you can start to apply it to your practices as it relates to your finances, and then then you're ready to go into, okay, let's set a budget and understand what the significance of that budget is, and now let's look at the checkbook, let's look at all those things, and the credit cards, and let's do away with going and on payday going to a cash place rather than go have a bank account. The difference and the importance of having a bank account versus going to a cash and carry place, or if you need to buy something, rather than that, you go to a furniture rental place and you decide that's how you're going to take care of your home. And all these points are a part of the financial piece.
Well, the other key thing too is communication. When you have a spouse, you always have one spouse that spends more than the other.
That's me.
Right. And it just happens. You always have one. If you have two people spend, it's tragedy, but that's out there too. But the fact of the matter is, there's resentment that can be created because how do we talk about money without getting into a fight? How do we say, you know what, I don't like the way that you spend. Like, can we work together as a team? And
yeah, no, we got about a minute left. Something else, I was looking at you guys' website, some of the classes that you offer, and it seems like the usual stuff, get out of debt, building your credit, college plan, etc. But now, these days, you got to think about things that maybe you have to think about 30 years ago, like identity theft,
yes.
like long-term care. That it's I jokingly say it's not your father's financial education.
No, it's not. Well said. No, that is key. There's a lot of there's a lot of different topics in regards to financial education, and of course, a lot of times we think of investment and portfolios and what do I have in my bank and this and that. But it is, like you said, Abdul. Understanding identity theft. There's massive strategies that we can make certain that we can keep ourselves out of a lot of that danger, and that's a part of the financial education as well.
We've got just about a minute or so left here, gentlemen. If somebody wants to, get some more information from you guys, or say, hey, you know what, I know somebody who is, they're financially treading water, this will help them get back on track, or somebody's probably saying, hey, you know what, denial isn't a river in Egypt anymore, I'm going to go get some help myself. How do they get a hold of you? What should they do?
Well, there's two parts. We're looking for individuals that can learn and gain some knowledge, come to our classes, and that's first and foremost. We're also looking for individuals out into the community that are willing to teach some of these classes with us. People that are professional in their industry or knowledgeable. So we just recently started a really strong campaign called the Central Indiana Financial Education Initiative, and we're looking for 140 educators to join up with us over the course of this next 12 months to help educate 5,000 plus individuals here right in our backyard.
All right. And the website, folks, is, by the way, Coffe with one E, USA.org. Our guests today have been Josh Bach, Charles Guynn, from the Community Outreach for Financial Education. Gentlemen, thank you both very much for being with us. Great to have you here. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, Abdul.
Let's go over to Matthew there and see what those roads look like. Matthew.